Hey, welcome. It's Captain Matt, Boater Secret Weapon. I want to thank you for joining us for this Sunday night live. We're getting ready to start here in just a couple of minutes here. We'll start about 8:30, but I wanted to welcome you. If you've never been to a live, here's what you can expect. Just go ahead and chat in your comment section, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube. Just ask your question, leave your comment there, and then as we go through the time, I just kind of scroll down all the comments and I try to answer them. Now, if it's something that I need to ask you a question, I may ask you a question and just put it in the chat again, and I'll come back and I'll get that information so I can give you a more personalized response, something that's going to really add value for you. This is just something I do. One, it's great fun. I really enjoy it. It's helpful for the community. Just sharing my knowledge. Now, one thing that you need to know, I don't know everything about boats. I know a lot about boats. I've been a boater since I was 5. I've sold boats. It's something that is a big part of my life. With that said, I don't know everything. Matter of fact, sailboats, have zero experience with sailboats. Bass boats, very little experience there. Bow riders, deck boats, center consoles, jet boats, twin engines, stern drives, outboards, inboards, all of that I have experience with. And if I have an answer, I'll give you my best answer. If I don't have an answer, I'll try to give you a resource that will be valuable for you. If I have an opinion, I'll try to give you that opinion, but let you know this is what I think, not what I absolutely know. So I look forward to it. Here's a little video intro that a subscriber made for me. Thanks, Bo. And we'll see you on the live when it kicks off here in just a moment. Welcome everybody to another Sunday live. I am Captain Matt here with you. I'm gonna go with glasses today. I don't know, was on the computer doing a bunch of editing today, so my eyes are a little tired, and every day I keep getting older and older. So welcome everybody. Glad to have you here. Looks like we got a good crew coming in. Ray, thanks for asking about my daughter. She is casted up just 4 to 6 weeks in the cast. It wasn't on a growth plate. It was her left arm. She's right-handed, and it got both the bones, but it was in a good spot, I guess. One was just a clean break. They said that's about as good of a situation as we can get. The other one, a little bit of an angle that they had to set it, which my daughter said was a little painful. But she had a couple of really sore days, but overall she's doing good, and she is enjoying the attention that a cast is bringing. The people signing it and having a little extra sympathy from mom and dad, getting us to do stuff for her. And she asked for Chick-fil-A several days in a row and got it. That's coming to an end shortly, but she is I got a ton of glare on my glasses. But anyway, she's doing good. Thanks for asking. I appreciate it. Jerry's got his boat, his 28 Regal Express up in the Chesapeake, ready to go. That's good to know. That definitely needs some scrubbing on it, but Ray shrink wrapped and left it outdoors in up in the Northeast last year. This year went for indoor storage, and I think just the regular mooring cover, just the regular snap-on covers, and was happier with that. Yeah, definitely keeping it out of the elements is huge. So good to hear that update. Got a bunch of folks with us here. And I saw the first question. Yours for the first time. Looking to buy a boat soon. Don't know if I should get a Volvo or a Mercruiser. So I've got a video on this that I'm gonna recommend for you. Volvo, I think that will pop it up. Yeah, Volvo or Mercruiser. If you watch this video, it goes into a lot of detail. It's 20 some minutes long. Um, here's the main gist of it is they're both good engines. It depends on what year. Are you looking new? You looking used? And then it also, most importantly, it depends on, are there Volvo or Mercruiser technicians in your area? And I'm also, since you asked about those two, I'm going to make the assumption that you are a freshwater. Move my camera and see if that helps with the glare. But I'm gonna suggest, if you're in freshwater, you're totally fine. If you're in saltwater, let me know, and there'll be a couple other I guess comments maybe that I will make there. But as the biggest thing when you're looking at any engine is, are there are there good technicians in your area that are going to be able to support you, take care of it, get you parts in a timely manner, give you advice when necessary if you're going to be doing some of your own wrenching. Um, in the yeah, this is very generalized, but in the Midwest, Mercruiser is has much more market share. Frankly, Mercruiser has more market share in general, especially the older you go. Um, Mercruiser parts always available. And that again, 2017 and older, they both use the same engine block. 2018 and newer, they are Mer- Mercury is using their own blocks. Volvo still using the GM blocks and marinizing them. So you know, they're kind of depends on what you're looking at there, but it really comes down to the technician. I've run both solid. They both do a great job, and it's more a matter of who's going to be there to support you when you need it. So I'm going to leave it at that. Let that video do some more details for you, and then if you have specifics like you are in saltwater, then I'll tack on to that a little bit. Good evening. Is it normal to have mechanical part of the total whole price for insurance? Is it normal to have mechanical part of the total whole price for insurance? I'm not sure, John. I'm not sure I understand that question. Um, have have mechanical part of the total whole price for insurance. So, give me some more clarification on that because I am not exactly sure what you're asking there. So I'll come back to you, but just put it in the chat and I'll scroll ahead to you. Yes, thank you guys, I appreciate it. Jason 211, good to have you and maybe Michaela with you. Yeah, Ford versus Chevy question, 100% on that. Finally got weather cooperating, just waiting for the boat back from service. Should be soon. Fiberglass had it for a few weeks now. Good deal. That is very good. And yeah, it was. We were in the 80s this weekend, and just a nice to get out in the sun. I don't know if this is everywhere, but we have the cicadas are out this year, and oh my gosh, there's just a outside, it's so nice and beautiful, and then you just hear that little hum in the background. It's interesting, but yeah, nice to have the weather. Jeffrey, good morning to you. I'm not sure where you're dialing in from, but it is good to have you here. New name, welcome. Okay, yeah, perfect. So all my girlfriends have C rays. Yeah, so you're good. In '09, they were both Mercruiser blocks. The the Bravo and the Alpha were just just good solid units. Same thing with Volvo at that time. Volvo's a little bit quieter going into gear. It's just by the sheer nature of the type of clutch that they use going in and out of gear. The Mercruiser, the Bravo is very similar. The Alpha has a little bit more of a clunk, but it's supposed to be that way. That's how it's designed. But yeah, and I sold at yours for the first time. Not sure if you know, but I sold Sea Rays for a number of years, and I was selling in '09. So I ran a ton of Sea Rays. All of them had Mercruiser, obviously, with them being owned by Brunswick and the same. So just make sure you've got a good Mercruiser technician or Volvo technician, and you'll be and you do you follow, if you haven't yet. I assume if you're here, you probably have the toolkit, maybe even joined the First Time Boat Buyers Academy, but go through the demo checklist, go through everything in detail, and you will be make sure, more importantly than Volvo Mercruiser, is boat well taken care of versus boat not well taken care of. That's the bigger concern, especially if you're looking pre-owned. Yeah, happy Cinco de Mayo. I think I've got a Corona out in the fridge, but I kind of forgot, even though I've got a Cinco de Mayo sale going on right now. But if um, but I totally forgot it was Cinco de Mayo today. So brought mine to get it summer ready. Needed a new gimbal, universal joint. Thinking about going outboard on my next boat. Looks like it may be more serviceable. Yeah, it's a maintenance item, and especially like what can happen is a lot of times that gimbal bearing in the universal joint, if it goes out and it's early. Now, Corey, I think you've got a Chaparral, if I remember right. I don't know what year it is, but sometimes what can cause them to go out early is one of two things. Number one is water intrusion. So the bellows have a pinhole in it somewhere, or it's dry rotted a little bit. Something, water's getting in there and washing away some of the grease, causing some extra rust, and that can cause it. The other is somebody has run the boat with the trim up, and they're steering with the trim up at higher speeds and often. Like that can wear out the gimbal in the U joints. But also, it's just something that needs maintenance on a stern drive. It's why a lot of times in the comments on this video, the problem with stern drives, it's there's more moving parts because you're taking power and not just sending it straight down the shaft out the propeller. You're taking power from here, and you're going through the boat and then down and then out the prop. So you've got a Z or whatever, lightning bolt, whatever you want to call it. And because of that, you've got more working parts that are more likely to get worn and need maintenance. And that U joint and the gimbal bearing are definitely ones. As far as um, being serviceable, if you're mechanically inclined, it's something that you can do yourself. It's now the hardest part, and from a guy that's not super mechanically inclined and has not done it himself, right? But from the people I talk to, the hardest thing is getting the drive off if it hasn't been pulled off ever. Those bolts can seize on; they can be really difficult. That lower unit can be really tough to pull off. And then two is getting it put back on, because you've got to line everything up. You've got to get that spline in there. You've got to get the shift cable just right, and it's got to be it's got to be in gear, I think. Don't quote me on that, but you've got to have it in gear or neutral or something, and then get that shift cable in there just right. And it's like that last 2 inches that is the hardest to get back. But once you got it out, and let's see, uh, gimbal bearing and U joint So when you look, now let's see if I can find a. What am I looking for exactly? You know, when you look at that, that's just gonna, well, it's gonna pull out the whole thing. And then that gimbal bearing is, I don't know how well you can see this picture, but getting that out, getting it greased is, it's pretty accessible once you get everything pulled out. And again, this is what I was talking about, is these bolts right here, is if that's never been pulled before. One of the things that at the dealership I worked at during winterization is, if they were doing a full winterization, they pulled the drive every time and re-greased all of that in there, and they also greased up these bolts, because that way, if they just did it every year, and then it was easy. It's the ones that sit for 5 years and never have those bolts pulled, never have the lower pulled, and that drive pulled, and then you try to get it off and you bust a bolt, or you got to use penetrating oil for, and let it sit for 30 minutes or an hour, and you're doing everything you can to get that sucker off. But once you get all that out, it's pretty accessible, right there. That's probably the best picture of the gimbal. um, and the U joint, let me see if I can find. Yeah, I don't know what you've got on yours, but this is the drive pulled, and that U joint's right there. So it's, that is pretty accessible as well, on that. So I hopefully that's helpful. Okay, a 2010 Regal. I don't know why I had you in a Chaparral. But yeah, it's one of those things that, if you're Corey, if you've got the inclination to do it, watching a few YouTube videos, of the drive, if you can find one of the drive in about the year, the generation, I think it's a tackleable project, for the right people. So, um, for sure. Just installed a low rents fish finder. Very good. Yeah, this is, you had all season getting everything, the last little bits put on, ready to go. And it's fun to try out the new additions, whatever it is that you did, even if it's just a buff and a wax, to see the water beating up perfectly the first couple times out. That's always fun. Let's see, Mike, welcome. Friend has a Four Winds with the Volvo. It's awesome. Yeah, Four Winds and again, Four Winds is one of those brands that's changed hands a bunch. So Genmar had it, then somebody else had it. Who bought it after Genmar? And now it's owned by Beneteau in their boat group. And so it's been a different boat. And obviously the Four Winds, the four brothers, the Four Winds owned it originally before they sold it to somebody, and I think Genmar bought it after that. So I think that's like had 5 or 6 owners over the years. But yeah, I've run several Four Winds and always enjoyed running those boats. Getting excited, less than 2 months till the Newfoundland trip, where I get the boat. Wait, Jeffrey, I think you've been on before. Now that you say Newfoundland, that you were asking some questions about up that way. Congratulations. Yeah, whatever you can do to find it a little cheaper. Exchange rates, whatever you need to do. Yep, had our Margarita Friday. Today's Taco Tuesday. Nice. That's good. Mary, I need the toolkit. Okay, Mary, you can get the toolkit for free. Just go to boatbuyerstoolkit.com. Boatbuyerstoolkit.com. It'll ask for your name and email, and I'll email you the PDF. It's like a 40-page PDF that you can download, print that baby out, and boat BuyersToolKit.com. I promise it's there. I don't know. There we go. Maybe your Boat Buyers Toolkit. Just put your name and email in, and it will shoot it over to you. They have, yeah, they've got mechanics. It's, depending on Mary where you're at. Looking at a Four Winds and '09 Four Winds. Good. We just mentioned Four Winds. Several different in '09. '09 Genmar had them. When did they? When did Winds get bought? '01 Genmar bought there. Bought by. '14. Okay, so 2014, Beneteau acquired them. So it doesn't change a whole lot. They usually keep them at the same factory. I think Beneteau brought in their own management team. I don't think that they kept the management team, but they bought a couple different brands in that acquisition. The tech. Here's the thing. Go through the toolkit. Watch the videos. If you're looking used, make sure you watch this video. Used bow rider. How to buy this one right here. How to buy a used bow rider, or how to buy a used boat. A lot of similar information, and that will be helpful for you. Just go to my channel and go to the used bow rider playlist. Used. Those are pontoons, and you'll find used boat red flags is another really good one to check out. Yeah, so you'll be able to find a lot of great stuff there, and then obviously here the Boat Buyers Academy that we offer is super valuable as well. But the toolkit's the place to start. So welcome to the channel, by the way, Mary. Good to have you. Sustainability, good to have you. Welcome. Starting to look and shop around. Gotcha. Let's see here. So I'm still, John, I still don't fully understand the question. If you're asking you said for insurance though, like when you're researching values on JD Powers, they'll break it down. What? Boats. They'll break down if it's an outboard, they'll break it apart. They'll say the boat is worth this, and then you add the outboard power typically, and then you also add the trailer. So you've got three components of value. If it's an outboard, if it's a stern drive, you've got two components of value. The boat and the motor are one because the motor is built in on an inboard or a stern drive. So the boat and motor is one value, and the trailer is the second value. So it depends. It depends on if it's an outboard or a inboard or inboard outboard. Hopefully that makes sense, John. And for insurance purposes, what they're going to do is they're going to assign a total value for the policy, and then they're going to break it out accordingly. Depends on the trailer, outboard, or stern drive, and the boat as well. So hopefully, I think I may have answered the question that you were asking, but if not, let me know. Let me know. Bellows getting replaced. Yeah, for sure. If you're doing that gimbal, assume that there's water getting in somewhere. And even if there's not, if you're doing the gimbal, it's time to do, what is that, 20 years almost? Would you say 2010? So 15 years. yeah, go ahead and do those. On a trailer boat, like you don't even know really when the gimbal's leaking unless you're leaving the boat in the water overnight, because hey, you're getting in and out. You're probably bringing some water in the boat. When you pull the plug, some drains out. Maybe a little comes out the bilge, kicks on the automatic bilge. But if it's small enough, you may not even notice it. But it still could be causing some issues. So, guessing the previous owner kept the trim up. Might have been some water intrusion. Yeah, you just never know. You just never know with it. And it's again at 15 years. I don't know what the interval is. Uh, what's the interval on a? I had somebody on. I'm not sure if it was last week's live or a couple weeks live. He's like, I can Google. This is terrible. This guy's just Googling stuff. I can do that. Like, hey, I don't know all this stuff off the top of my head. Um, I've got a Mercury manual somewhere. I just don't know if it's nearby. But yeah, I would think the 10 to 15 year mark feels feels about right. Um, and you're in fresh water, so 5 to 15 years. That's on Club Sea Ray. So yeah, that it seemed like it probably wasn't abused, but yeah, just the time. Looking to wrap up my Tune Vantage Tune Guard. Anyone have an opinion how they hold up? I have not personally used it, but I know a couple of dealers that offer it, and they love it. Now, it's a big profit center for they love it for that reason, but also they told me that they love it when the boats come back in on trade, is because it doesn't have all those nicks and dings and gouges that they typically come back with, and it's super durable, looks really good over the long haul, and they've really found it valuable in that respect as well. And obviously, it's a profit center for them, which they never disliked that either. Um, but if anybody else has Vantage Guard, let me know. Jeffrey, I'm going to get to you here in a little bit. Uh, I just saw your comment. And Jonathan ended up replacing trailer brake lines, aluminum trailer with metal line from tongue to axle, routed inside the frame. Not ideal to rinse salt water. Yeah, that is getting that salt water anytime there's a channel is tough. And um, yeah, it's brakes on a saltwater trailer are tough to keep in good operational condition for sure. Got to teach you how to say it. So listen, I'm just a simple kid from Nebraska. I grew a long way from. All right, so um, how do you say? Oh, Newfoundland. There we go. Is that better? Is that better, Jeffrey? Yes, and now it's not. I'm not sure why it won't. won't play it. All right, but Newfoundland. There we go. I think I got it. I think I got it for you. Better, better, but not perfect. All right, come back next week. Come back next week, and I will get it. I'll get it back. Thanks. That made me laugh. All right, so you've got the single prop version. That'll be it's lighter. That's for sure. Easier to pull and oh, I know a little bit about boats, very little about much else. So, observance of tide. What's the best time to enter, exit, and inlet? So it depends on a couple of things. And actually, I've got up on my board to do a video on why the uh, why the hullover inlet is so difficult. So, Antonio, here's what you need to think about is it's not necessarily tide going in, tide going out. It's what's the wind and the tide doing. Okay. So let me try to explain it. This will be good. And let's see if I'll do it on a piece of paper here. All right. So here's what happens. All right. So you've got your waves going, right? And if the tide is going out, and the wind is blowing in, what's happening is it is instead of it being like that, it's actually let me do it a little bit different. So instead of being like this, so you've got the tide going out, so the water's rushing out, but you've got the wind. Let me see if I can go full screen here. You've got the wind blowing, and what it does is it stacks those waves right on top of each other. And in my Confident Coastal Boater program, we talk about the distance and the height between waves. So the how much time between waves and then the height. Those two things are important to know. So if it's smashing it together, this is going to be really challenging because if you can imagine as your boat's going over, it's just boom, boom, boom like this. Where if it's here, it can come up and then go down and then come up and it's a little easier. So the distance between this peak and the next peak is you want that to be spread out a little bit because that's going to allow the boat to just gently ride over the waves. You can be on and off the throttle, on it a little bit as you're going up, off as you hit that, like the back 2/3 of it as you're cresting the top, come down on the throttle so that you don't just jump off, but you also want to get that bow up there. So as you're coming back down, now you want to give a little bit more throttle to get that bow up, and you're just going up back. And when I say I'm not talking hammer it down and back, I'm just talking like a little bit of goose, a little bit of back, a little bit of goose, a little bit of back. And that is what's going to be important. So it kind of depends on the timing of what is the wind doing. But the best time, really, the easiest time to get through is going to be at slack tide, where your water's kind of a little bit more stagnant, and then you just have the wind. But there's also hey, how deep is the inlet, and how difficult is it to navigate to that channel? So in the Confident Coastal Boater program, we talk about going through channels, and if you can imagine, the way a channel is cut, if you look at it like this, like you're going out and this is the open ocean here, and you're coming through here, it might be real shallow somewhere in here, and this is going to be white capping. Anywhere where you get shallow, the water is going to be breaking, and you're going to see what we refer to as foam or white caps. So you also, as you're coming through, you want to make sure you stay in the no foam zone, right? And some of that will be local knowledge. You'll know that, all right, the foam is going to be all in here, and so I need to stay to the right as I get out to the inlet. And so having that knowledge of what to expect traditionally, but anytime a storm comes in, it can change a little bit of how the inlet operates. And then wherever your buoys are as well, that's going to be a guide. So it's really a matter of knowing what the wind and the tide is doing, and then knowing how to read the channel or how to read the inlet to get through and stay in deep enough water. So, Antonio, hopefully that helps. I'm not sure that was the exact way that you were wanting that answer, like to give you a direction there, but it is. There we go. But hopefully that gives you an idea. And then the big thing is, it's not, if it's choppy, if it's, you're not just at a throttle setting, and you're also, when you're coming back in, you're trying to, when you're coming back in, you're trying to ride that wave and keep your throttle setting at a point where you're going through like this, and you're not, if you get here and you slow down, you can, let's see if we do it like this. If you're here, you can imagine taking that wave. If you slow down too much, you can imagine that wave coming up over the back and pushing you all around, losing steering, or even worse, coming over into the boat and swamping you. So you want to be in that spot where you're just riding that wave and going at that right speed as you're coming back in. That's how you want to come back in. So there you go. Perfect. All right, we'll work on it. Antonio, what I know, yeah, winds are a big thing to consider. And that's why hull over Carolina Beach, was it Carolina Beach Inlet? It mattered where I did it. In Wrightsville, we did it as a hurricane was offshore. And so when we went through, matter of fact, I lost 2 of my cameras and all the footage from a good chunk of the day, because we went through, and I'm like, okay, show us how not to do it. And we did that, and we actually took a big one over the bow. We were in a 28-foot Grady. So it was fairly safe, and we had our life jackets on. We knew what was coming. He was a longtime captain that had gone through that inlet thousands of times. But again, that wind was coming in, the tide was going out, and it was just a perfect storm of boom, 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 and not managing the throttles right. So you just got to be real careful. You got to practice, and you got to be smart. Sometimes the best decision is to not go through that inlet and to go through a more protected one, or an easier, the angle of the inlet is better suited for the conditions of that particular day. And sometimes that's a decision that you need to make as a smart boater. For sure. Thursday night tournaments usually restricted to the Cooper River. A few times we're allowed to lock into the lakes Thursday. Nice. That's interesting. Beach politics. That's good. Hey, not a very high bar these days, but that's good. That is good. I'm already relaxing. Well, that's what we're here for, Josh. Just a little bit of fun, a little bit of giving each other shit, obviously, on this one today with my lack of culture and worldliness. So glad, welcome. It's a new name. I don't, Josh, I don't recognize you. So I ran up to the Moultrie because I absolutely slayed them last Sunday. 5 fish right off the bat, 8-pounder. Nice. That's awesome. Ran back to the lock and got stuck in. Oh, I was like, oh, it was a cliffhanger there for a second. Stuck in a nasty pop up, made the middle of Moultrie like the Great Lakes. We had, holy crap, out of nowhere. Wow. Well, I'm glad you made it back safely. For those that don't know, Brock fishes a lot of. He's in a club tournament and on Thursdays, and then another tournament series that he does as well on the weekends on Sundays. Does very, very well, and also he runs a bass boat there, which still, I think, still in the hunting phase after selling his one last year, and also has a center console 247 Sportsman that he runs with his family down at the coast down in Charleston, and he always has some good fishing tales. And when you fish those tournaments, sometimes you get yourself in, there's money on the line, decent money, and you get yourself in some more interesting situations than because of that. But I'm glad you made it back, and knowing, having the skills. You don't ever want to get caught in 4 and 5 footers on a bass boat, and in the rain and the wind and all that. But having the skills in your back pocket to get through it, it's going to suck no matter what. But there's a certain level of confidence that comes that, holy shit, we're in for it. But I know what to do. I'm not totally lost. And I know I'm going to keep my bow into the waves, into the wind, and I'm going to keep it high and probably put a little bit of trim in that puppy. I'm going to keep my speed at the right level, just enough so I've got steerage, but not so much that I'm pounding things even worse than I'm already getting pounded. And having those skills makes boating a lot easier for the 99% of times that you don't have to use it, for that 1% of times where a pop-up happens and catches you with your pants down, and you're like, all right, put your life jacket on and here we go. Let's ride it out. So glad you made it through that, Brock. Curious about the year and model of the Sea Ray you make your videos on. The one that I did a bunch of videos on, and Kevin, I run a bunch of different boats. So the one that I think you're talking about was an 09 240 Sundeck. I did a whole bunch of videos on he actually helped me on the channel, Mike Mandel. He owns Charlotte Boat Repair on Lake Wiley. Great technician, very, very knowledgeable, very good, very honest guy. And he has a 240 Sundeck that I run every now and again. And last year I did a whole series of videos on that boat. And I think it's an 09 240. If it was the maroon one, 240 Sundeck. By the way, one of my favorite boats. It is, I think, as a family freshwater boater, the 240 Sundeck from 99 to 09, that window, it was a 26-foot, 4-inch length, 8.5 beam. It had a ton of seating. It was open with the 350 mag. That one had I think that one's got the 5.0 MPI, so 260 horsepower. But the 350 mag, 300 horsepower in that it's just an awesome running boat. You can load that up with 8-10 people and still have plenty of juice. It's got a ton of room. It handles rough conditions well. It's roomy. It's quick enough to do water sports behind. It's got a head on it if you need that. It's a great storage compartment. It's got a huge in-floor ski locker. They killed it with that design, and they ran it for 10 years, which is on the longer side. Usually every 5 to 7 years, manufacturers will redesign their boats. but that was such a killer layout for them that that they ran that whole design for from '99 to 2009, and they redesigned it in 2010. So yeah, great boat. Also depends on the topography below the water. Shallow water creates more waves. Wind amplifies them. Deeper doesn't create as many. Yeah, for sure. And most inlets are going to be on the shallower side. You know, they're usually man-made cuts through, or at least dredged out. So they're typically not going to be super deep and coming in. But yeah, knowing, and also, you know, to Jason's point, knowing the characteristics of the inlet that you're going through. You know, like I said, that local knowledge, it's something that we talk about a lot in the Confident Coastal Boater. How to get it, talking to locals, getting the charts, knowing how to, the paper charts, knowing how to read them. You know, practicing, like going through at slack tide on a calm day, and you know, just running through it back and forth a couple of times to get the sense of what am I seeing, like, you know, where am I seeing the buoys, what is my depth finder reading at this particular, at slack. You know, I know it's going to vary versus high and low, but I can figure those things out and do it in a more controlled situation, so that if I do want to go out on a day where the wind is coming in and the tide is going out, I know this, I know what to do. And now I just got to be a little bit more on the throttles, and I've got to be a little bit more reading the waves, and getting a sense for how they're coming in. And usually you'll, you know, the way we talk about this in the Confident Coastal Boater, everything sort of builds on each other, right? Knowing the tides, when they're coming in, when they're going out, knowing how to read the wind and where to get that information, having the local knowledge, knowing how to handle your throttle when you're going in the wind, knowing how to read the waves, how to look as you, like what we talk about is, as you approach the inlet, you're not just getting to the inlet and going, like you're sort of sitting there and you're reading, what are the waves doing, what other boats are there, depending on the inlet. Maybe I need to just sit tight and let somebody else come in, especially if it's really challenging, or let somebody else go out. Maybe I'm get lucky and there's a local charter guy that's going through, and I can just follow his path because they've gone through that inlet thousands of times, and I get some local knowledge by watching what they do, the professionals do. But reading the waves as they're coming in, because there'll be some rollers and then the big one will come, and then there'll be and you can time it as well, so that you hit those bigger ones in an area where it's a little bit safer, or maybe you can even avoid a little bit, depending on what the local inlet is doing, like what's it doing to the waves, and it's going to impact them as well. A lot of stuff to get that one question is, when's the best time to go. There's a lot more to it than just that. There's a lot of layered knowledge that will make it easier for you over time. Predicted wind gives you wind speed, direction, sea conditions. Yeah, the one we recommend is fish weather, is one of them that is real good to give you, like, not only now, but what's it going to be like when we come back? Like, what's that going to look like? And I can look at it days in advance. Obviously, the closer you are to the time, the more accurate it's going to be. And there's another one that we give there as well. But having access to the right information is, like, if I'm at the dock and I can see the winds coming at this, from this direction at this speed, I kind of have an idea of what that inlet's going to be like, and I can make my plan. Do I go to that one or do I go to another one? Versus just ripping to the inlet, getting there, and being like, "Holy shit, this is tough." Having that predict wind app, fish weather app, and having the tides and the wind and all of that together can be real valuable. Follow the speed of the wave. Yeah, following the speed of the wave is knowing how to time yourself, with that wave. And the other thing is the wave's not moving at the exact same speed, right? As it's going through whatever's on the bottom, that wave may speed up a little bit or it may slow down a little bit. So again, you're not just setting the throttle and steering, you're on and you're very small adjustments on that throttle. And it can take practice. And so in the Confident Coaster Boater, we talk about practicing. There's several different exercises to practice those skills in a controlled, challenging, but not difficult environment. So just enough that you get the hang of it, you get the understanding of it in a very controlled way, and you get that touch on the throttle, and you're not just on and off, but you've got a nice feathery touch. So now when I'm doing it and I am getting pounded, I can control that throttle because my muscle memory is there. I've got that feel for it, and I know how my boat's going to react, which is another big part. If you've got a digital throttle, you hit it, well, it's going to react almost instantly. If you're pulling a cable and you hit it, there's a little bit of a delay there. Is your boat big and heavy, or is your boat light and little draft? Well, that's going to have an impact on how quick your inputs are going to go in. And so all of that matters to your boat. So anyway, a lot of detail in that program. It's awesome. If just confidentcoasterboater.com is where that's at. Kevin, I've been looking at a 27 to 35 cruiser past 5 months. Just 1 month ago, banks were wanting 20% down and now offering 100K no down payment. Do you think interest rates may start dropping? I did, Kevin. I did my market update just a couple of weeks ago. I want to say it was the last week of April, so it's not even 10 days old. And I need to put the video together, but I also got a lot of loan information from he's the president of the National Marine Lender Association, or vice president. He's on the board. He's on the board of the National Marine Lender Association. Very knowledgeable guy. Helps banks get into marine financing. Helps marine lenders improve their processes. He's got a lot of insight, a lot of knowledge. The general consensus is that rates aren't going to drop till the end of the year, if they're going to drop. So the Fed sort of has to make their move first, and it's appeared that they've pushed it down the line. It seemed like they were going to make rate adjustments, maybe sometime after July. Now it feels like they pushed it off till maybe the fourth quarter. So I don't anticipate banks lowering the actual consumer loan rate, boat loan rates, anything significant. Maybe a quarter, but that's probably not going to happen until, let's call it October, November, December, if at all. And it's not even going to be a half a point in my opinion, in my non-banking expert opinion. I did own a mortgage company for a number of years, so I get it, how it works, but I don't have any additional insight than what I've gathered from just public research and talking to people in the industry. So the 20% down, not for 100K with no down payment, that is highly unusual unless it's a credit union. Credit unions are more prone to do 100% financing. That's very interesting to me. I would love to know, Kevin, who's offering that, because in my experience, that is an anomaly, not the norm. In even normal times, like even in normal times, 10% down is required. And if you're saying, and Kevin, I'm not sure, but I'm based on this comment of 100K. I'm gonna say probably pre-owned. And yeah, 10 to 20% down is kind of the standard, what I would expect. The older you get, after 10 years, almost exclusively 20%. If you're newer than 10 years and over, I will call it 50 grand, maybe 10%. But that's interesting. But that's my thought on interest rates. So A little more sketchy down here with big waves since the lake's so shallow. Oh yeah, that's had to worry about smacking a stump. for for those of you that don't know, Lake Moultrie, they didn't cut the trees before they flooded it, and so there's you could be in um, deep water and hit a treetop basically, but also in some of the shallower parts there's challenging conditions. We'll just say that. Come off a 3 4 foot wave right down on top of a tree stump. The channel of the lake's around 30, right outside the marker. Jump less than 10, 5 foot outside the markers. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I had a '03 270 Sundeck. You hit it up about the gel coat separation from the fiberglass village 7 months ago. Now looking for something to stay overnight on. Um, Oh, okay, interesting. That I vaguely remember that conversation about the lamination process and how that is not good. Almost didn't make the lock in time. It closed at dusk. What would you do, Brock, if you get stuck outside the lock? Well, I'll keep reading here. Usually the last lock cycle is 10 15 minutes before sunset, so I planned on fishing as long as possible the north of the lake, running hammer down the channel. Made it 3 miles full speed, ran into that storm. Uh, Two other boats from the tournament. I wonder if they held a little bit for you guys. Weigh-ins at 8, so I knew if I could make it to the lock, it'd be all right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, what do you do when you get stuck and you can't lock through to the next day? Uh, that that's one of those feelings. I've been there in different situations. Is I'm sure you got to the lock, you got all tied off and everything, and you just sort of and you just sit back and relax for that whatever. I don't know what the lock through time is, but the 10 15 minutes to lock through. That's funny. Um, that the one thing about boating is if you do it long enough and you're going to have some stories. There's whether it's getting caught in a storm or something crazy happening, something fun happening, just something off the wall happening. There's always something. So um, boat trader ads. Okay, so I'm going to try something here. If you got any more questions for an hour or so, we'll wrap it up. But I'm just gonna check um, uh, Newfoundland. I'm almost there. Newfoundland. All right. So where are we going? Boat trader. I got caught off by my hooked on phonics there. So let's search aft cabins, sea rays. See if we got any aft cabin sea rays out there. Okay, let's check out this nice 380. And then let's go to finance, boat loans, financing, types of loans, use boat, apply now. They bought a lender a while back, Trident Funding. I used to use them a bunch. Um, Zero down loans offered for boats up to 100K. That is super interesting. Um, Compare 15 lenders, get you the best rate once approved. Zero down loans offered for boats up to 100K. That, Kevin, that is super interesting because it is. Um, I almost want to. I almost want to put in an application and see. I wonder who they're running that through. Yeah, it's unusual. It is not common at all. But it is right there. Trident funding. Um, well, let me go right to Trident. It's there are definitely people buying now. I mean, like you, I've got I probably 10 emails this week from customers that are subscribers, we'll call them. Maybe they've invested in a program, maybe they haven't, that are, hey, we're going to look at this boat. Is it a good boat? What should I look? We have the same questions that I answer on here, but and it's less than it was last year, but not, it wasn't like I was getting 30 questions a week. It's probably 10 a week now, maybe 10, 15 a week. So it's gone down a little bit, and it was maybe 15, 20 last year. During the pandemic, that was out of this world. There was always something coming in because so many more first timers. But let me see. So we'll say 120,000 loan amount on a 2000, we'll call it 22. Monthly payment loan amount. Okay, so I'm trying to see if they are gonna boat loan process, boat loan calculator, boat loan rates. All right, they're gonna make me actually apply to get a rate. Interesting. Yeah, I appreciate that, Kevin, because I'm gonna check things out. Yeah, it's slowed down, but there are definitely people out there buying, and and that it's what's interesting is I would think the opposite would be happening right now. But I'll tell you, when I talked to Jim uh, at National Marine Lender Association, what I was asking him about was default rates. Like, are we going to see a bunch of repos come and hit the market in the next 3 to 6 months? And he sent me some data. I don't have my email pulled up, but he sent me some data of default rates. Default rates are up a tick. I mean, it's practically nothing. Um, and so but I would expect, because they are expecting default rates to come up a little bit more. Like in the next 24 months, they're expecting default rates to come up a little bit more, um, but not significantly. But I think that would have them tightening up their lending guidelines in preparation for that, not opening them up. So I wonder if just the interest rate on that is you got to have 780 plus credit, and you've got, you're going to pay an extra 2, 3 percentage points premium because of the extra risk. So that's super interesting. That's super interesting on that. So all right. Anytime I run the lock, I've learned to leave my truck keys with. Learned that the hard way. Here in the Sandy, we had a guy that missed the lock after we weighed in, had to take our boats down the river 10 miles up the lock to meet the guy to get his keys so he can bring his truck down to him. Yeah, maybe we should leave the truck keys. That's it. Yeah, if that is in your fishing plans, how about we leave the keys there? I'll leave you the code to my truck. You can get in. All right, guys, we'll call it quits there. I appreciate it. This is another fun one. If you are in the buying mode, grab the Boat Buyers Toolkit, 40-page toolkit, checklist, questions to ask, all sorts of good information, totally free. Boater Bootcamp. If you're new to boating, if you are a newer boat owner, grab that. Talks about things like the systems on your boat, maintenance on your boat, basics of navigation, what to do in an emergency, how to use a VHF radio, those types of things. We also have our best boat captain programs, docking mastery, how to dock, how to handle your boat. And those programs are awesome. I promise you, if you learn by trial and error, it will cost you a lot more than paying full price for any of our programs. It just will. And plus, it'll be a hell of a lot more fun and easier. We've got Trailer Like a Pro, Confident Coastal Boater as well. That covers most people. And then if you're towing water sports, you can check that one out as well. So check those out at bestboatcaptain.com, confidentcoastalboater.com, trailerlikeapro.com. Nice and easy. They all come with the money back guarantee. If for whatever reason you're not blown away, doesn't do what it says it's going to do, you get your money back. Send me an email, you get your money back, usually that day. And I don't get many of those. And what I do, I just process them. And I think I've maybe had 10 total since I've been doing this. And I did look back at the numbers, and it's like I've trained almost 2,000 boaters with the different programs that we offer. So a lot of people have been through them. A lot of people have had great success. Always working on more 5-star Google reviews and Facebook reviews. But you can go check those out too. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a fun rest of your Cinco de Mayo. And we will catch you guys all next weekend. Very much appreciate it. Kings in the City. Kevin, you are very welcome. Sustainability, have a good night. David, do you think buying a surf boat at trade-in value right now is risky with what's going on at Tommy's? I don't know what trade-in value means. I think Tommy's, from what I know about Tommy's, I think they run I say this and what the allegations are. I think Tommy's runs a good dealership. I think something weird happened. Maybe they expanded too much, got in a tight financial spot. But who's determining trade value? Are you using the NADA trade-in value? That value is, yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good value to buy a boat at. If it's in good condition, if it's been fully checked out, if it's the right boat for you. Will Tommy's be there in a year from now? I think so. I think they have a good enough base that 15 locations, good brands. They're going to lose Malibu, but I don't think that they won't be able to pick up another line. And they may not be there to service you, but my gut tells me that they will be. So with that said, at a good enough deal, and you're buying used. So NADA, it was ran in one of the deliveries. It was ran in one of the deliveries in Orlando on the river. I don't love the fact that it's a saltwater boat. So that's automatic 15% deduction to that NADA trade value. So it'll say right in the NADA book, page 3 says saltwater boats, 10 to 15% depreciation off every value. So if that trade value, you got to knock 15% off, especially on a surf boat, because a surf boat is not made for the saltwater. There's salt in all of those ballast tanks and all of those ballast pumps and all of the cracks and crevices. Did it get flushed? Maybe, maybe not. How often did it get run? So just be cautious of it. Be cautious of it and make sure the boat is going to be reliable for you in all aspects. So not only does the salt, even if it was run in some brackish water, some fresh water as well, half the time, the salt is gotten into the wiring, the screens, the navigation, all of that stuff has salt in it. Just the salt air and the salt water splashing all around, and people getting in and out of the boat, the salt running through all the ballast pumps, the it just the salt and the corrosion is what I would be most worried about, even at the best value. I always get concerned, and I don't know this to be true, but if you're a saltwater or if you're a freshwater guy, David, you don't comprehend how harsh the salt is on a boat. So just inspect every nook and cranny, crack and crevice of that thing, and make sure the boat's good at any value, and then make sure you get a good deal on it. So hopefully that's helpful for you, as we finish up here. So we'll end there. I appreciate you guys. We'll catch you all next week, and we'll see you back here. See you. Cracks and crevices. You're welcome, David. Good night, everybody.